Welcome, everybody. We do this call because MSPs asked. You wanted to hear what we were working on, what was new with the platform, what bugs we fixed, and you wanted to do a little R&D or rob and duplicate ideas for automations with your peers. Hey, let's do our typical reminders. Normalize Discord, right? I haven't done that one in a while. And I remember this because I got to rant about it to somebody this week, and I forgot who I ranted it about. They were like, why do you do support in Discord? And it took me all the way back to, when was the first company that offered support via email? Or the first company that offered support via phone calls? This is just the evolution of human communication. It's not that we're Discord fans. It's just an evolution. Discord offers the best pricing of free to allow us to do that, and that's why we chose Discord. With Slack, it's virtually impossible. If you would like a less interactive, more old school support approach, please ping me. We still do open tickets, by the way, just like when you call the call center person opens a ticket. With that, while you're using Discord, make sure you ping us, tag us, or reply in a thread. Some of us are monitoring hundreds of channels. We answer your question, and then we immediately go to another channel. So if you don't reply in a thread or tag us, odds are it'll take us a while to see your response. Speaking of Discord, ask questions. Let's go through. Let me count here. How many MSPs have succeeded with automation without ever asking a question? In fact, that's my biggest indicator of whether or not an MSP will succeed at automation. If they think they know everything already, if they think that they're already the automation experts, odds are they will fail because they won't ask questions. And so with that, I have identified approximately these many MSPs that have succeeded without asking a question. 2, 8, 12, 16, 0. 0 MSPs have ever succeeded with automation without asking a question. So please use your Discord and ask questions. Other items, I'm so happy I get to talk about Flow again. I went so long of reminding folks about Flow. Please come to Flow. We're almost sold out of sponsorships. I'm sure there's some specials or something going on with tickets. Can someone post the link to the Flow tickets or the Flow website? Thank you. We don't want to make money on Flow. I am not in the conference business. If I go to my leadership and show them revenue from a conference, they're going to make fun of me. They're going to say, Aaron, you're not a conference company. We take all the money that we make from Flow and we invest it back into Flow, and also to pay all the debt we incurred by putting on this conference. So please come to it. It's an industry vendor neutral automation conference. We're going to invite everybody to this conference. And if there's some other automation platform that you use, please ping us and we'll invite them to come to the conference. And then also, I do have one announcement. We have a new management team member starting. I'm seeing if he's even on. Let's see. And I did not warn him that I may call him out. Frank, are you on? He may not be on because he's traveling today. Frank, you on? Frankie? All right, we're not going to announce Frankie today. Was there anything I forgot? I don't think so. I'm going to pass it over to Ash. Ash, what's up?
Unmute myself first. Thank you. All right. Yeah. going to jump over to, we have a special guest dev update today. Let's see if anybody can guess the theme on our dev and marketplace updates. But first, we're going to go over to Pizza.
Howdy, everybody. I am filling in for Daniel with an A today because he's traveling. So it's just going to be a quick dev update from me. Some new features that we added. We added the Australia 2 region for the Datto PSA and the US 6 region for the Auvik integration. We have finally switched on the IT portal integration. This has been in the works for a while, so I know a few of you are itching to get at it. So that is now available. We've added a loading indicator to the create app input fields and set the inquiry max timeout to match the parent workflow's timeout. Some bug fixes. We resolved some JWT validation issues for authentication with Microsoft Graph with non-custom app registrations. We're trying to improve the responsiveness of the workflow canvas for kind of those smaller screens, because I know that some of the buttons were off the screen for smaller screens. We've corrected some of the task count mismatches and solidified some bugs that we were having with some form conditions. We've also fixed some of the pagination issues that were noticed with Connect Secure and the V4 release, as well as some of the Adigi actions having a little bit of a long description, causing some issues there. And just in general, some more integration-specific bug fixes. We've got some more feature flagged items on the way. Things like we're in the process of reviewing things like our GitHub integration, our Roost generic GraphQL request action. We're trying to make sure that's ready for you guys here soon, and definitely more to come there. So let me pass it back over to Ash.
I do want to interrupt one thing. I think the Connect Secure pagination, even though we deployed a fix for it, we're still only returning 10 items, I believe. So another fix is in the works.
That may be referring to the fix that's coming this weekend.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. All right, now let's go over to JP.
Hello. Share out my screen. Awesome. All right, I'm just going to go over the marketplace update for this week. We have a couple of new crates that we are re-releasing. Paul has done an immense amount of work on our OpenAI ticket categorization and ticket sentiment analysis crates. So if you've used those in the past and discontinued to use them, we encourage you to check them out again. Paul's done a huge amount of work on those, and they really are looking fantastic. So huge shout out to him on that work. We have the detailed MFA Enforcement Reporting Crate that we are kind of reintroducing with additional functionality, and we're going to take a little look at that here in a bit. And we have some updates, mostly in best practices and workflow layout updates in the IT Glue Hoodoo Document User Details Crate. There's a little note here about the if you're using the OpenAI crates, if you're having issues with them, one of the things we've noted is you might have to go into the crate and there's a little button that you have to press that says update configuration, and it redeploys things for you. So if you're having issues with that and you're wanting to check that out, before you reach out to the ROC, you might try that troubleshooting tip there. We have a number of bug fixes, both on unrelated crates and crates we've recently reintroduced. I'm not going to go over them. They're not particularly interesting, but a few fixes and enhancements that we've deployed for those. And coming very soon, worth particular mention is the Google Workspace user onboarding and offboarding crates. Those have passed our QA process. We've done testing with them with customers, and we're ready to release those. That's going to be released as soon as they are crated up and published in the market. That's all we're waiting on at this point. So that's all the stuff we've worked on the past week, and the stuff that's coming up for the rest of the year. And I think we have a demo from Dan on the detailed MFA Enforcement Reporting Crate, if we want to go over to him.
Yeah, so let me share my screen real quick. All right, can everyone see my screen? Awesome. So this is the detailed MFA Enforcement Reporting Crate. It basically consists of two workflows. This is the main workflow that I have currently up, and then there's a batching workflow for the graph requests. So essentially this will run through, it checks for the report type. There's two different types of reports that you can get from it, which is basically a CSV and HTML report. Both of those are sent through email. But we basically go through, list the users, and then we call a few different endpoints to get like the CA policies, check if security defaults is enabled, check if per user MFA is enabled, and getting the enforcement policy and everything like that. And then basically we generate the report. So it's kind of a simple workflow, but basically there's a form and then a cron trigger. And basically for the form, you just specify a email recipient, and then you can specify whether you want it in CSV format or as HTML. So for this one, I'm going to send it as CSV. And then for this other test org that I have, I'm going to send it as HTML. And then I'll basically just give it a few seconds, and then I should get the emails in my inbox here. And then I'll pull that over on my other screen so that can be seen. All right, so I just got the CSV one. So we can see here, it does include a HTML table in the email, just so you can quickly see the report. So I'll hit this, that'll download the CSV. And then we can see here that it will basically go through. We can see the accounts enabled, per user MFA is disabled. It is covered by security defaults, however, and then there's no CA policies in the tenant. And then we can see that MFA is enforced. And then it's important to note that MFA can be enforced, but for the user to have MFA, it would need to have some methods registered and a default MFA method. And then you'll see here, it will say, is MFA capable and is MFA registered if they have that. And then it looks like the HTML one came through as well. So the HTML one's a little bit more interesting. Basically, that will just open a HTML page from a trigger, and it will actually go through and highlight things. So we can see here one of the accounts has MFA not enforced. And then it's also important to note here, we do specify if it's covered by conditional access, if it's covering all apps or just some of the apps. But then you can see the MFA methods and everything like that. And that's pretty much the crate. Like I said, it's pretty simple. Just checking various different methods for whether it's covered or not and whether we consider it enforced. There's a bunch of documentation on the crate page specifying what the different variables do and everything like that. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope. Any questions for Dan? If not, we will move on to our education update with Eddie. our Eddie-cation update. I'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure out the fun. But hey, everyone, good afternoon. Not Brandon here. He'll be back after the holidays. So I got no game tip of the week, but I do got a question for you guys to engage in the chat. What game is your favorite game with regards to high replayability? So games like Tetris, Pac-Man, Galaga for the old schools, FPS like Valorant or CS or COD. Throw those in the chat. Like, what is your favorite like infinite game, high replayability? Play it again and again and again. I'm stuck on chess right now. That's my game. But anyways, jumping into the training updates. If you haven't done so already, closing out the year, take your certification, get certified, get your badges, get into super secret Discord channels, gloat on LinkedIn, do all of those things. We have everything as self-serve for these courses. So if you head over to our doc site, you can watch videos, you can put it on 1.25 or 1.5 speed to get it done even quicker. But if you like the in-person, that's going to be the first full week of January. We have these Roost Foundation Boot Camps every month, beginning of the week, the first week of each month, each full week. So sign up for those if you haven't done so already. We're having pretty big turnouts these days. So if you haven't done so, you want to kick off your New Year's resolution learning Roost, this is a great way to do so. As always reach out to us in Discord with any questions. If you do have questions, you want to kind of do it live sort of thing, we also have our office hours, right? Anything that's training related, you just kind of want a second pair of eyes, another explanation or whatever, we have our office hours as well. So that happens on Thursdays if you want to engage in that way as well. As for updates on the doc site, Lisa, our docs person, been doing a lot of formatting, trying to standardize a lot of things within documentation. So keep your eyes out for that. Things will be shifting here and there. Nothing too major as we're closing out the year, but again, just like little formatting things like nesting things in subpages and whatnot. So huge shout out to Lisa for all of her work doing those things. But again, sign up for the Foundations Bootcamp, do your certification, get help in our office hours. We're going to be starting that back up next year. We have holiday coming up, so next 2 weeks we're going to be out. But otherwise, let's pass it back over to you, Ash.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, so now we are going to jump into some demos. I'm going to go over to CJ first. CJ, it's been a bit. What have you been working on?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Perfect. Well, first off, happy Merry Kwanzaa to everyone. Hope everyone's having a good break. We're about to anyway. But yeah, my name is CJ. I work with Geekbox IT. I am one of the tech support specialists here, but I'm more kind of the in-house Roost specialist as well, working as the back-end dev for this project. And we are essentially working on a vehicle status app that allows all of our technicians to check out a vehicle and keep everyone in the company updated. And I'm also joined by my coworker, Kyle Weekly.
Hey, my name is Kyle. I'm a technician at Geekbox. I also do a lot of Roost stuff with CJ as well. So it's good to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Kyle.
All right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And I believe it's sharing now. So this is our ticket dashboard. We use Autotask. Over here on the right is actually an app builder setup that we've created. We only have 5 vehicles at the moment. So it's just showing those vehicles here. And the first 3 are actually electric vehicles. So we're able to track their charges as well here through an API, which allows us to know if the vehicles are actually charged or not, if people can drive them. So if they're not charged, we know not to take those, and you don't have to waste 15 minutes going out to the parking lot, finding that, and then coming back and going over and over again. All right. And then, so how we did this is first we set up a custom integration with the Verizon Connect app. It doesn't actually connect directly to the car. It's connecting to our dash cams, which are connected into the, I think the ODBC reader in the car, or whatever it's called. I'm not a mechanic. But that actually pulls in all the Verizon, or all the data into Verizon, which allows us to pull it through API into our app. And then, so after the custom integration was all set up, we then created this workflow here that actually pulls that data in. And we didn't want to pull in too much data all the time, so we made a little time thing so it only actually pulls this in during our business hours. And then here's just the auth token. And then it actually pulls that data in. But unfortunately, whenever the car is not on, it actually won't send that data correctly. It'll be null. So we also have to check to make sure it's not null so it doesn't delete the organization variables. So it's just kind of an in-depth process when it comes to all that kind of stuff. But we also integrated this with our text bot. So I think Brandon Martinez Kika showed everyone how to actually set up Teams bots. And so we are using that to allow people to manually control when they check those out via Teams messages. So they will send in a message that says something like bolt 1 or bolt 2, and then that will get parsed out into the different messages that they can actually change the statuses to. And then from here, I will actually let Kyle control my computer so he can show you how the front end works on this.
Yeah, so as soon as someone updates the status through Teams, it goes into our front end, which you saw with Autotask. So the way we keep that updated is we have a script template here that refreshes that app, I believe, every minute. So it refreshes it, but then each car has its own HTML container and app builder. So we were able to pull in the JavaScript function for that actually changes the CSS classes. But the other really cool thing is we figured out how to pull in CSS templates as well. So we were able to build the entire front end in App Builder and then write the CSS over here and then pull it into each container. Because originally, I had a whole bunch of inline styles and it looked really, really terrible. But then we figured out how to use the templates to actually pull CSS in and design the app a lot better. So here is an overview of the functions for one of the bolts. So there's a function for each status here. It changes the color of the box on our screen based on the status that was set. And the one really cool thing we did with Teams as well is with this RTB status here. You won't see it in the JavaScript, but it's back on the workflow that CJ was showing originally. But when someone sets the bolt as RTB, it will change it on our dashboard, and then it also sends a message into our company chat to let everyone know which technician is back or coming back and what bolt they're coming back in. So that was really great. Let's see. So yeah, this is the front end for the actual box, and then we also have the functions here for the charge bars. So those update every time the car pulls a new charge. It updates here and shows on our dashboard. So it makes it really easy for us to decide which cars to take out on our service calls. Let's see here. But yeah, really the most difficult part about doing all of this was trying to maintain the live data and making it show up as things happen. And then handling some of the data inconsistencies as well. So the Verizon app itself will only ping back charge status when the car is turned on. So, I mean, it's pretty accurate and helpful, but I just wish the Verizon app would just give us more data if the car was charging. But other than that, it's been really helpful for making sure that we know where our cars are and which ones are the best vehicles to take out for service calls. But yeah, I'll pass it back over to CJ to talk about some of the challenges and the lessons we learned.
So yeah, most of the challenges we learned was actually getting to pull the JavaScript in, which I think it was 2 or 3 open mics ago. We saw someone doing this template thing where you could set up a script and then just import that through a template. And we thought that was a really cool idea. So we, of course, Robin duplicated it. And then we were having a lot of issues with the CSS issue of the inline styling and Kyle had a really great idea of just what if we did that as a template as well, and it worked perfectly. And so it really just optimized all of our uses here and made it to where we could essentially have, like OOP styled development along with like classes and actually using our programming knowledge to pull this in. So I'll just show a quick little demo of how it works real quick, and then we'll open the floor to any questions and move on. So this is our little vehicle status. It just kind of tells everyone where it is. And then here's the bot where we actually do that. You can see where I was testing it a little earlier today, but usually we'll just type in bolt 1 or bolt whatever, and then you can type it all the way out like available or unavailable or whatever. We usually just use one letter to make it quick though. So it'll post it there, and then you'll get a response from there, which we usually use ChatGPT to make like little custom messages, so I forgot to change the title there. But then you go back to Teams and go to the vehicle status, and you can see that at 3:30 it was changed right there. And then back on the dashboard, you can see that it's now unavailable. And then I'll go back and just switch it back because this is actually available and I would like to make it useful. And I'll see that it should be logged now. Go back here, and it refreshes every minute, so I'm just going to manually refresh it. And it's all good. All right, but that's pretty much all we had there. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
I think Brian said, oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I have a ton of questions. So this one's technical. By the way, really awesome work, guys.
Thanks.
The frame on the right with the bolt status, is that authenticated or unauthenticated?
Yeah, so we actually had the question about that. We're having to log in with our actual users every time, and the session expires every like 26 hours or something like that. So it is kind of a pain that we have to log in every day. But yeah, it's just kind of the limitations of it, since there's not really like a public facing app that we can just have open and not have to log in every time that we know of anyway.
Yeah, we're working on making that better. So that's why I asked that question. And then the next thing is, how do you have any way to quantify like how much this is saving you? Like, is this saving you a lot of time, a little time?
I mean, how much would you say, Kyle? Like, every time we pick up a wrong vehicle, it usually takes us about 5 minutes to walk out to the parking lot, figure out that the car is not available, and then wait 5 minutes to walk back, and then 5 minutes to walk back out there with another key. So I guess we're probably saving about 15 to 20 minutes every time.
Yeah, knowing exactly which car to take definitely saves time. Because our parking lot's a little far away, so if we go out there and the car is actually not here, then it's definitely a waste of time. It causes us to be late, and so this was really helpful for making sure that we're on time and not wasting any time.
And then tell me a little bit about Geekbox. How many employees?
I think we're at 11 right now, 11 or 12.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
By the way, I knew that about you folks, and I thought that's super cool. That an approximately 10-person MSP is working so diligently on automation. How did you get senior leadership buy-in? Like, how do you get your execs to let you make the business better through automation?
Well, Eric actually wants us to do this all the time. So he's pretty much like pushing us to work on this, and we're always just like, run tickets.
So beyond just, that I always talk about, you have to ask questions to succeed, but even more importantly, it's usually a disconnect between like the owner of the MSP and the engineers that causes automation to not work and the MSP remain manual forever. And so
right.
folks You folks have a really good culture over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unique for us just because, I mean, Eric and John are our two execs, and they're in the trenches with us at all times. So, I mean, they definitely understand the importance of automation and how just core it is to your business running correctly.
Yeah, it's like they directly benefit from it as well. So
Awesome. Those are my questions. Really good job. Do others have questions?
Brian's important one was, is the bot prompt, dude, where's my car?
we
Not
should
yet,
make that
but
happen.
yeah, that's a feature request now. So
Yeah, that's going on the list for sure.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That's awesome. And yes, loved seeing the work together there. That's so cool. Okay, let's jump now over to Brandon. You've been doing something pretty fun.
Awesome. Yeah. I've been doing a lot to glue together different platforms to help people onboard clients. There's a lot of talk around user onboardings, but I think there's a lot of focus we can put on automating the creation of customers and all the different platforms. So we've started off with building out a project in ConnectWise and then using SIP to help the onboarding process into 365 and then make a tenant in ImmuBot. Before I begin, I was up unreasonably late last night and I'm running off coffee in spite for the SharePoint API. So if I go way too fast, please tell me to slow down. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is the new client setup workflow. This is going to grow as we continue to build it, but I think even a little bit of built is better than no built, so we'll start here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create a project. This is going to be just a standard client onboarding project for us, and just the title of new client onboarding. Pretty simple using default actions. We're going through here and we're adding phases and tickets. Rather than having multiple actions to create the individual items, we're doing with items. And what I've done to make this a little bit easier to deal with in the workflow editor is on the begin action, I have defined a series of lists with objects in them. So we have ticket title, description, and phase for all the tickets we need to make. And then the project phases are defined here as well. This way, as we continue to add actions to this workflow, we don't have to go through and start copy pasting actions and rerouting all of these connector arrows here. We can just go through and add another object into our list here for the new ticket or phase we need to start creating. So we're going to with items through all those, and then here is where the fun comes in for generate SIP GDAP. SIP has a very cool API that you're able to access, and this looks like this. So I have this in a custom integration right now, and the specific endpoint we're going to hit is execute GDAP invite. Pretty straightforward. We have a refer here going back to our SIP instance. This is important to have in your headers if you're doing this, so it knows how to craft the URL to call back to the onboarding link. And then, of course, just the content type header. In the JSON, we have some information here that we're sending to the API, easy mode, and then GDAP roles. This is going to map the group ID to the role ID for the 12 default roles we want to insert on here for the agreement. This was found just by going into the SIP front end, going through the process to make a new GDAP agreement and hitting F12. What you see in the F12 console for the SIP API call is going to be exactly how you'll format it in Roost if you are utilizing that connection there. So next up here, we are checking to see if this is linked to a request on a project ticket. We're going to cache information in two different ways here, depending on that. So assuming that the project ID is defined, we're going to go ahead and cache the information here in an org variable. It's going to be formatted as project ID, onboarding URL, invite URL, and complex ID. This way we can go back and recall this information later if we need to. And we go to end. Last few items here on the setup. We're going to go ahead and add links into the tickets. So we're going to add a GDAP link as a note to the GDAP ticket, an onboarding link to the Defender onboarding ticket, and then we're going to update the org variable with some further information on what those ticket IDs are. And then we're done. So let's get started by testing this one out. So we've made a project, we have added the phases in, we are making the tickets here, we've made all the tickets, we're creating the GDAP agreement. SIP API is chugging away at this while we are waiting. Congrats on SIP v7 release candidate 2 for coming out today. And ooh, we failed because I changed stuff before the workflow. I broke the one golden rule of showing off, don't change things before you present and after you've tested it. We'll come back to that, but it looks like everything here has gone through, and I'm guessing it's because I added this error reporter in here and I didn't change the end to be a join one. I didn't every time. So we're gonna publish that, but that does mean that everything else has worked fine. So we can go back, refresh here. This has failed, but we can see we've gone all the way through, and the thing that failed was just that end notation in the workflow. So if I go over to my other window here where I have my ConnectWise open, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the ticket we have without showing all of the other customers, new client onboarding. Sweet. So we have new client onboarding in progress. We have our work plan here, and we have all of our tickets. So we're going to go through and pretend like we are filling this out. So let's say we have documented our credentials for global admin so we can accept the new GDAP agreement. We're going to go to the ticket for accept GDAP for tenant. And we can see in our notes here, log as global admin account, then open this link to accept the GDAP agreement. And we're going to do this now. So I have our lab tenant open here. And we're going to open this up. We have our expected roles, next, finish, accept. Wait a good old Microsoft minute, and we've accepted the agreement. All right, we're done with this ticket. We can move on to the next one. We're gonna go to complete onboarding. And we have instructions here. Once you've accepted the GDAP invite for this tenant, use the following link in your normal account browser to complete the onboarding in SIP. So we're gonna click on this link. It's gonna take us to the onboarding wizard. And then we're going to have some options here if we want to exclude them from standards and do any sort of remapping. We don't, so we're just going to pick the one we want to onboard, go to next, next, and kick off the onboarding. Awesome, we are going. While this is thinking, has everyone registered for Flow? If you haven't, you totally should.
I'm registered.
Very good. I would hope you would be. We are working with our good ProServe friends over at Raven on some cool things that will be happening at that event. So be sure to be there if you are not already planning on being there. Brian says, why is Brandon using light mode? Blind mode. I got a flashbang, everyone. All right, we're done with the GDAP invite. If anyone's curious what SIP is doing during these phases, first phase is checking to see is the invite actually marked as active, accepted for the tenant. Does it have the required roles on it? Step 3 is going to map the groups in your group mapping table to those roles. And then CPV refresh is going to go ahead and insert that app registration and consent to what it needs to. This shouldn't take too long. Once we're done here, we can go and do Graph API test. I did notice that this sometimes comes back as a red X when it's not really a red X. Come back and refresh it, it will show green, and then we can keep going. I may have been screwing around with the API in my dev tenant, which is another great thing to do when you're showing something off, but we should be good to go. Let's just run through and make sure that shows good now. Yep, we're good. Awesome, so we can come back and go to the next step. When onboarding is complete, click here to continue the automated tool setup tasks. We are checking. So what is that doing? This is a webhook that's going to go and feed the project ID back into a tenant here, which is in a different window. This one, yes, this one. So check GDAP status. We're going to check to see, is this running as a sub workflow or coming in through URL parameters? In this case, it's URL parameters. So we're going to go ahead and check the org-var type, which is project ID. We're going to get the project ID out of here and insert that into the onboarding GDAP syntax that we have for the org variable. That's going to go ahead and run a command on SIP to go ahead and list all of the graph relationships that are in the status approval pending or active. This is going to check to see, is an agreement found? If it is, awesome. What status is it in? If it's in approval pending, We're going to check to see if we've exceeded our retry count. If we haven't, we're going to wait a few minutes. We're going to check again. Something might just be happening on the back end. Once it's approved, we'll go here to end. If we exceed our retries, then we're going to go ahead and report that as an error and continue on. So if I go over to these results here, we can see we have succeeded on this one. And should be able to go through and see this as a sub workflow on here. Oh, that's why. Include sub workflows. There we go. So cool. We've looked up the agreement. We found the agreement that we are looking for just by filtering on it. We see the agreement data here. We see it's active. We see our customer information, and then we can continue. So in our top level SIPI RoostyBot workflow, we've verified that it is active. We then said, okay, AmiBot, go ahead and make your AmiBot tenant now. That's all done. So we can proceed on to checking if the project is linked. If it is, we're going to add a note to the AmiBot ticket saying, awesome, your AmiBot tenant set up. You've also accepted GDAP, so go to this direct link to finish accepting your permissions for the AmiBot app registration. And if we go back to our AmiBot tenant here, we can see that we have a new entry for eTop help. And then it's going to go through, and now that we have our tenant ID and we're consented to that, it's going to add a note in the Defender setup ticket to say, go here and activate the Defender portal. One of the more common issues I see with deploying Defender policies in SIP is when the Defender API is not fully lit up yet. You have to actually go to the tenant and click a button for it to show, okay, we're populating your data here. So back in the ticket, that's going to look like this. We'll go back and check on our ticket for Activate Defender for Business. This one is going to show a note that now says, GDAP agreement accepted successfully. Click here to start onboard for eTop help. This is going to take you straight to the GDAP portal for security.microsoft.com, and it'll give you the whole splash page of a little coffee cup that says, we're lighting up your backend Defender stuff. And then back in the AmiBot tenant ticket, we can see this one is also all set to go. AmiBot tenant created. Here's a link to the tenant, and go here to consent to the app registration. So some new things we can do. Next steps are going to be making sure that the statuses get changed, especially on the AmiBot tenant where it is just something that's fully automated. We want to change that from open to just closed or review needed. Same thing for these top tickets. As we start clicking through it, we're able to track time and close them out. This is a good kind of example of mixing in some human and automation together. You can't, for example, automatically accept a GDAP agreement, but you can give someone a much easier way to generate it, get to it, do it, and then, from there, handle the things you need to do with some interaction.
100%. That's amazing.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why'd you build this? Is it for personal use at the MSP, or did you have a customer request you build this? Like, how did you end up building it?
Both. This is both for us and for customer usage. One of our customers was the one who initially brought it up to us at first, and they kind of started that build process going, but we're trying to make it extendable enough to the point where we can easily build on top of it for different tools as our customer base grows. One of the really key things with our build standards is to make things easily changeable, so breaking stuff out into sub workflows, making sure that we can just start rebuilding and putting stuff on top of each other if we need to add a platform. So we're using ConnectWise, but what we'll do once we get this all done and error checked everything, we'll drag all those ConnectWise actions into a sub workflow for ConnectWise. So if someone else comes along later who has AutoTask, we just replace the sub workflow for do the project ticket setup in ConnectWise with the one for AutoTask.
All right, and there are a couple companies doing this today. For example, Raven, but then there's you folks. So why don't you give us 15 seconds? Like, what do you do for folks that need automation?
So Zentop is a pro services partner. There are many of us out there. We are a close group of people who are looking to help MSPs automate the things they need to automate, who may need a little bit of help doing so, or just are at the level of, we think this is cool, we want someone to do it for us. So whether that's helping you finish your workflows, get them done from start to finish, or just being a helping hand for consulting side of things, we're happy to get you moving.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, we are going to jump over now to Sam.
Hello. So I actually have a
Oh.
few workflows to demo off here. The first, let me kind of share my screen and I'll kind of show you how that works. So essentially what we had internally was we were just looking through our tools and seeing exactly what we were using and what we weren't using. One of the tools that we were not using that much is TimeZest, which is like a scheduling tool for ticketing and other things like that. It was starting to get extremely expensive for the number of uses that we were doing, and I felt like I could do something pretty similar with Roost. So what I quickly determined, we were looking through the different options that we have, and there's actually a Microsoft Bookings, which is actually has a good amount of features. And as I was looking into it further, I saw that they did have this REST API, which is great because you can actually pull down booking appointments, staff members, etc., and basically interact with it fully through the API, which is great. And it just works with the Graph API, so we didn't even have to deal with authentication since we already have Roost with that. So if you haven't played around in there, I just created this test booking page for us. But I have a different page for actual production one. So if you go into the booking page, you can make this available for anyone, and you can change the different scheduling options, have services for like 30-minute or 1 hour support, and go through and set up your calendar and all that kind of stuff too here. Now, what I wanted to do, it was a great tool, except for when you fill out this form, there was no integration. Like we didn't want customers to have to select a list of staff members, go through that list, select the right staff member, and go through all that kind of stuff. It didn't really have the integration that TimeZest time. So that was obviously something I needed to create. And Microsoft doesn't have any integration with ConnectWise or anything like that for this. So what I basically did was create a Roost workflow, and that workflow actually goes through, let me show you what that does. So basically it gets a list of all the appointments with the Graph API. And this is just our test booking page. So it's getting the list of all those. It's going through and basically just running through a for loop, which goes through all the appointments. And this just runs on a cron every 5 minutes. And essentially it checks to see if the staff member is this temporary one. So what you can do in Microsoft Bookings is set it up to where it just goes to temporary staff member, which I do. And basically that's how I can eliminate the client from being able to see a list of our staff members and selecting the right one and doing all that kind of stuff. So then what it does is it runs a sub workflow, which basically goes in, gets the appointment details, gets the staff members, goes through. You can set up custom fields in those booking forms. So one of the custom fields was the ticket ID number. So I basically have two different little like checks I have here. So you can either, if they provide us the ticket ID number, it's going to automatically assign it to the ticket owner inside of ConnectWise. So they'll get the booking notification and they'll be assigned to it. If the ticket ID is not provided, it'll go in and try to do its best to basically pull in the list of contacts with the email address that was added inside the booking. If it can match that up with a ticket, then it will go through and add them in automatically. So the client doesn't even technically have to enter in the ticket number, but if they have multiple tickets, then it can be kind of weird in terms of identifying which one it is that they actually need the booking for. So I'll kind of show you what this looks like inside of production here. Well, not in production, but in our dev tenant here. So I just have our test booking page. This is the end user that we would just send this link to. We'll say that I want a 30-minute session. We'll go through and say we want it for 4:30. And I'll just fill this out. We'll do test here, and I'll just copy and paste this temporary email address in here. And I'll just enter in a fake phone number since we don't need that. And I'm going to enter in a ticket number here. So let me pull up our ticket details. This is just a test ticket I have open with myself. and we'll paste this in. We can go in essentially and create a custom note that'll have all this information for the client for the ticket number as well as the link for this. So they just click on book. They get a nice message that says that you have been you've been set up for booking and all that kind of stuff. They'll get an email back from Microsoft with the booking information here. With the meeting invite, they can reschedule it and do all that kind of stuff through here. What the cool part is with Roost. So let me go back and I will run this workflow. And you'll see essentially what it does here. So it runs pretty quickly. It gets the list of appointments. So I can get the appointment details right from here. See, it's the SAM test user. Here's my fake phone number I added in and all the attendee details here. And basically what I do is it runs the for loop with action, so it gets that booking details and we'll update it. So essentially when I pull up my email here, you can see that the booking has been updated. It has the ticket number with my name in it because it's been assigned to me since I'm the owner of that ConnectWise ticket, and now it's on my schedule, and which is right over here in my Outlook. So I can go through here and it sends me a nice quick email saying here's the ticket number and all the other stuff. So it automatically goes on my ConnectWise calendar. What I want to do as a next step is create a ConnectWise pod, just like TimeZest does, that basically will allow us to click a link and it'll send out the ticket link for customers to schedule and embed that ticket ID number. So it'll be essentially identical to what TimeZest does. And it doesn't cost us anything, which is great. So, and we can go in the custom fields in here are actually really cool. So if we go under our booking page, actually, if we go into each one of these, you can go in and set up the different custom fields. So I can go in here and either make it a drop down or a text question. I can really adjust this form to however I would like it to be and set up the availability and all that kind of stuff through here. So, and what it will show up as on my calendar from our service desk management side, they can see that the ticket is now scheduled on the bookings calendar and they can see it's with me, which is pretty cool. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the API is very extensive if you look into this. You can go in here and query the list of appointments. I could go in here and set up some different details. So like, for example, if it's not able to find the matching person inside ConnectWise to send the ticket to, it should just send it over into a generic staff member or whatever, so that somebody can manually review it. Because sometimes we need somebody to manually review it and say like, hey, if they have 3 different tickets open, which one is it? And it's really hard with automation to say, hey, based on the ticket details, which one is it? Sometimes you just have to ask everybody and say, hey, we have a appointment scheduled with this person. What ticket is this for? And somebody's like, oh, it's for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can add it in manually, which is pretty cool through the bookings interface as well. And you can go in here and set up your question details. So that's how I was able to actually get the information. So if we pull in here, it's actually going to be getting the appointment details. So that's under our customers and the custom question answers right here. And here's that ticket ID number. So that's how I was able to match it up with ConnectWise. So I was able to take that ticket ID number, get the ticket information, match up the email address with the email address of the person inside Microsoft Bookings, and basically go from there and do all this, which is pretty cool.
Sam, we got just one more minute, but John asks, how does this deal with conflicts? Since the booking is being done against the temp ID, what happens if the signed tech gets double booked?
So if it does, the tech will also receive an email here, so they can go in here and modify this. So they can go in here And I think there should be a way to do this, to send out the update information. So the tech can just go in here, say reschedule, and it'll automatically reschedule with the customer. So that is something that we could look into doing as well. I mean, the actual interface here for the booking, if I click on new booking here, this isn't going to show the actual text schedule. Since it doesn't know exactly what tech it will be scheduled with. This is kind of just like a static page for right now, but eventually I do want to have that functionality in here.
Awesome.
So
thank you, Sam. Awesome demo. Awesome work. I would take more questions, but we are at the top of the hour, everybody. Reminder, we'll be doing this, I guess, next Friday, but no agenda, not required. If you do come, it's required fun, though. We require that you're happy. And I want to, if you're not going to be on next Friday, hey, have a happy holiday for you folks that are celebrating it. And with that, thank you for all the folks that demoed. There was like 170 odd people on. So thank you for the stressful demos. And thank you for the help. Help your peers out in the coop, answer their questions, and have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Toodles.
Doodles. Meow.